All right, let's get into one of the weirdest cyber heists I've ever come across. We're talking about a huge bank, a massive amount of stolen data, and an ending that, well, nobody could have predicted. Seriously, just think about that for a minute. A hacker gets their hands on a gold mine of your personal information, enough to wreck millions of lives. And then, poof, it's gone. It never shows up for sale, there's no ransom demand, it just vanishes into thin air. See, this isn't just a what if. Back in the summer of 2019, this is exactly what happened. It left Capital One and the FBI staring at a giant, baffling puzzle. So let's piece together what went down. Okay, so first, let's look at the crime itself. What made this whole thing so strange wasn't just how big it was how it just didn't follow any of the usual rules. And when I say big, I mean staggering. We're talking about over 100 million credit card applications and accounts. And this wasn't just your name and email. This was the sensitive stuff. Dates of birth, and yeah, for many, social security numbers. The absolute jackpot for a cybercriminal. Now here's where the story takes a sharp left turn. Normally, when data like this gets stolen, you see it for sale on the dark web, sometimes within hours. But in this case, crickets. Nothing. There was no sign that a competitor was behind it, and absolutely no obvious reason why anyone would steal it just to sit on it. The motive was a total mystery. With the what being so bizarre, investigators started digging into the who. And the person they found behind the keyboard was, believe me, not who anyone was expecting. The person behind it all was Paige Thompson, who used the alias Erratic. And here is the absolute kicker. Thompson used to be a software engineer for Amazon Web Services. You know, the same exact cloud platform that Capital One was using to store all that data. This wasn't a random hacker. This was an insider, or at least a former insider with the keys to the kingdom. So, someone with that kind of insider knowledge, how did they do it? This gets us to the technical core of the whole breach, and it's simpler than you might think. It's the question everyone asks, right? How does one person manage to breach a financial giant like Capital One? Well, the answer is actually kind of terrifying in its simplicity. It all boiled down to one thing: a misconfigured server. The best way to picture it is this. Imagine a bank spends millions on a state-of-the-art, impenetrable vault, but because of a tiny mistake in the plans, they accidentally leave a side door completely unlocked. No guards, no alarms, just an open door. That's pretty much what happened here in the digital world. Let's break it down into 3 easy steps. First, Thompson used her unique insider knowledge of Amazon systems to find that unlocked digital door. Second, once she found it, walking through it was easy. And third, once inside, she just started copying everything, all that sensitive customer data. Identify, exploit, and extract. It was that straightforward. Okay, now for the climax. The data is stolen, there's no trail on the dark web. You're probably thinking this is going to be some long, drawn-out FBI investigation, right? Lots of digital forensics, chasing ghosts online. Well, you'd be wrong. Yeah, the FBI didn't have to follow a complex trail of IP addresses or laundered cryptocurrency. The clue that cracked this entire case wasn't hidden in some dark corner of the internet. In fact, it wasn't hidden at all. I am not kidding. Paige Thompson posted a list of the data she had stolen on her own public GitHub page for the whole world to see. It's like a bank robber leaving a signed confession with their home address at the scene of the crime. That one move, that single post, led investigators right to her doorstep. So what do we do with a story like this? A massive breach, a weird motive, and a jaw-droppingly simple conclusion. Well, it actually teaches us some incredibly important lessons about our security in this digital age. Lesson number 1 is all about that unlocked door. A single human error, a simple server misconfiguration, exposed the private data of over 100 million people. It just goes to show you that cloud security isn't always about fighting off super sophisticated hackers. Sometimes it's just about locking the doors and windows, getting the basics right. And lesson 2, you can't just build the vault. You gotta watch it too. Someone should have noticed that unlocked door was being used. Proper monitoring would have flagged this unusual activity way earlier. It's all about knowing who is touching your data and why. No excuses. This one brings us right back to Paige Thompson. Her time at Amazon gave her a roadmap to its systems. It's a huge reminder that when an employee leaves, they don't just leave with their belongings. They leave with a mental map of your entire digital layout, including where all the weak spots might be. And what about that weird motive? That's a lesson in itself. Just because the data wasn't sold on the dark web doesn't mean no harm was done. For the millions of people whose social security numbers were now out there, the risk was very real. The exposure is the damage. And finally, maybe the most chilling lesson of all, this case was solved because of dumb luck. Capital One and the FBI only found out about it because the hacker basically raised her hand and said, "Hey, over here." That's a terrifying thought. It really drives home how critical it is to have systems that can spot an intruder without having to wait for them to confess. Which really leaves us all with one big, unsettling question. This wasn't some nation-state attack. This was one person and one simple mistake. So it makes you wonder, in a world that runs on these incredibly complex systems, is our most personal information ever really safe? Or is it all just one unlocked door away from being completely exposed?